how to overcome failure, or the things that you're really good at, and sometimes a combination of both. I think my parents are really good about not protecting me from making mistakes, but letting me make mistakes and then coming away and saying, oh, what did I learn from that terrible mistake? And I think that's a really important process for growth. Instead of getting all wound up about your mistakes, you have to kind of come back and say, how can I do that better next time? And the great thing is, as an adult, you literally have to do that all the time. If you're going to crumble every time you make a mistake, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think that probably figuring out how to turn mistakes into learning opportunities and continue to plow forward anyway was probably the best thing I learned in my childhood that I could apply to my adulthood.
Okay, good. So, covering stories that I normally wouldn't have been covered, were there times that it was like tough to do, like maybe because the stories weren't popular, and how did you like make it happen?
Yeah, you know, it is sometimes tough to do. Sometimes people don't see the value in the story, and so you're kind of like slamming your head into a wall trying to get people's attention. But I don't necessarily mind that. The upside of that is that if you get the right story, not everybody else is covered. You know, I'm there kind of by myself. The documentary we're doing that's going to air on Sunday is about sort of the lack of diversity in Silicon Valley, and now suddenly it's become a very, very popular issue, and we're kind of in the forefront. And that's a story that we really push to get told. So I think there's a huge upside. But yeah, it certainly can be frustrating. And that's when you call your girlfriends and they, they talk you off the ledge and they tell you, no, it's a good idea, keep pushing, don't give up. And, and I think like anything, you sort of just, keep working and keep working to make it happen, especially if you really believe it and you're really passionate about it. My bosses have said to me, I don't really understand the story, or I don't know, this doesn't sound so interesting to me, but you seem very passionate. So I'm going to prove it because you seem to be passionate. And that really taught me that my passion was very correlated to whether or not something would be successful. So I get very passionate about the things that I believe in and I want to cover because that's more likely to build it.
That's good. So kids have all kinds of obstacles growing up. What kind of obstacles did you have and how did you overcome them?
I grew up in a town that was mostly a white town, like 99-something%. And my mom is black and Cuban, and my dad is white and Australian. So we were these first generation Americans who had big giant afros, and my parents both spoke funny. And so I think sometimes the blending in thing, which is really what you want to do when you're a kid growing up, was really hard for us. But I think the upside of that was that we became very tight as a family. And also, I really learned that you don't have to be the most popular to be successful. It's okay if people don't like you. It's okay if you don't have a million friends. You really just need one good friend, maybe two good friends. That's it. And that was a really good lesson growing up in the town that I grew up in. And I think you also realize that a lot of people feel like outsiders. It wasn't just me. Some people who I would consider to be insiders also felt like they didn't necessarily fit, because I think that as a girl and going into young womanhood, it's kind of a typical feeling. Like, oh, everybody's staring at me. Oh, I don't have what everybody else has. I look different. I think that's kind of typical. I was surprised later to see girlfriends of mine who I thought were the most popular girls in school also felt at times like they didn't fit, which was so weird to me, but that's what they said.
Okay. So when did you think your reporting, that you capture like a moment when you were like
I think probably Hurricane Katrina was one of the very first times that I think as an organization, when I was at CNN, we told a story that really needed to be told. We held a lot of people accountable. When I was walking through the airport, we used to go into New Orleans in shifts, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. We're going for another 2 weeks. And I remember one day coming back at the end of 2 weeks, which meant we were disgustingly dirty because there were no showers. We were sleeping on floors. And I had to wear a CNN baseball cap because my hair was so dirty, it was just disgusting. And I remember walking through the airport and people gave us a standing ovation. People in the airport. It was really one of the most amazing things that ever happened to me in my life, because it meant the work that I was trying to do as a journalist was not just important to me, but important to people who were watching. Like, our work mattered to people in the United States, people outside the United States. So I think that was probably one of the very best times when I felt like we were doing exactly what we were supposed to do. Hold people accountable, tell those stories from a very grassroots level, be compassionate in our coverage, but make sure everyone's being informed. I think we did all those things very well.
That's really cool. So do you ever think like every story should be like personal, or is that okay or not okay?
I guess sometimes people will say reporters need to be objective, and I think people interpret that to mean be cold and uncaring and telling a story. So I think you need to be objective in terms of don't go into a story with an agenda of what it's about. be open to hear people's sides and people's perspectives. But I think you can never lose if you're compassionate. I mean, I've interviewed serial killers, and I was very interested in who they were as a person, and I just wanted to understand them. And I think that that's a certain level of compassion for another human being. I don't think you can ever go wrong with that. I think it's much more unnerving to me when a reporter clearly just does not care about what they're covering. If I'm in a community and I'm trying to tell that story, then I care about it. I care about it for my viewers. I care about it for my job. I care about it because I'm there and I'm personally covering it. I care about it for the community I'm covering. And I think sometimes people confuse, being detached from being, having a dog in the fight, having a stake in the game. I think you can do a very good story and be very fair and emotionally care about people. I'm sure, actually.
Okay, good. So, like, if you pretend that you're walking into your office and you have like 100 faces, like framed of people to talk to, like, who would stand out more than the rest, and like why?
If I literally was walking into my office and I could pick anybody on that wall to talk to, I would pick my kids. I mean, they're just so much fun, and that's really who I like to see when I'm in my office, when they come and stay with me sometimes. I spend a lot of time out in the field interviewing people, and I enjoy it, but I'm always pushing to have more family time at home because I'm really busy and sometimes it's hard. So that part's always really a juggle. In terms of if I could have an interview with anybody, it's been my experience that people who are the bold-faced names, famous people or politicians, they're not so interesting. They have an agenda. They know what they're going to tell you, and that's what they're going to tell you, nothing more. I like interviewing regular people, and I think that's what made reporting for Haiti, reporting from Katrina, reporting from tsunami, whether it was in Thailand or it was in Japan. Powerful. It was regular people whose lives had been upended, sharing their stories, their loss with you. And I think that those are really powerful. Much more powerful than somebody who's running for some office and wants to spin you on their 8-point plan for economic reform, because that's what they're just going to try to hit. They're not going to really answer questions. So I don't think anybody would recognize the face of someone I want to talk to. It would be just a regular person who has an interesting story to tell.
That's good. So what are your upcoming plans and events?
Well, on Sunday we will air Black America 4, the New Promised Land, Silicon Valley, which is about 8 Black entrepreneurs who head to Silicon Valley in Mountain View, California, to try to make their .com business ideas into a success. And then after that, that'll be the 25th documentary I've done for CNN. So I'm going to take a little break, go on a little vacation, go back to the gym, do all those fun things, and then in January at some point, I'm going to launch a new morning show for CNN, which will go from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we'll take a lot of the things that we did in the documentaries, and we'll start doing some of those issues on the morning show, and I'll continue to shoot documentaries. So I'll just be doubly crazy. So I'm going to really try to relax when I go to a spa in December.